I'm Sherry from Cup of Cold Water Ministries, and we are getting really close to our 40 Minutes Around the World Globe40 live stream event that's coming February 27th. So if you have not ordered your box yet, make sure you do that now. Click the links that are attached to this video, and you can either get this box in the mail, or if it's coming very close to the February 27th date, you can get your digital media box and Let's have a look and see what you're gonna get. Inside every Globe40 box, the first thing that you're gonna see is this schedule sheet, and it's gonna tell you step by step how to have your missions experience in your home with your small group or your family, your friends, or even just yourself. Starts at about 5:30 p.m. and one of the first things that you're gonna find that you get to do is have a dinner. And you are gonna use one of the 7 recipes that is also inside of the box to create an authentic culture cuisine for yourself, friends, and family. And there are delicious recipes inside here. Each one of them have been submitted by Cup of Cold Water ministry leaders. Tonight, we are going to cook kosher. We're gonna try it out, and this is submitted by Tusha from Mongolia. She is Mongolian, so you can't get more authentic than that. And my special guest to help me cook this tonight will be my husband, Troy. We've already got our dough ready.
What's the next step?
And the next step is that we need to cut the dough into 3 pieces. After we get it cut into 3 pieces, we need to roll each small piece in the palm of our hand and make the palm full of the small dough. Okay.
What does that mean, make the palm full?
I don't know. I said these are authentic recipes.
They're authentic translations.
Authentic translations. This sort of reminds me of when we
lived
in
this is
Mongolia.
how it works in the mission field. You have to try to figure out what they're talking about.
For those of you who don't know, Troy and I were missionaries in Mongolia for 8 years. And we have had some pretty adventurous experiences, haven't we?
We have.
And this would be probably the easiest thing.
It could possibly.
Which is videotaping ourselves making Mongolian meals.
Yeah.
Do you have your palm full of small dough?
I do. I have a palm full of small dough.
Okay, so now it says, next step, you need to use a rolling pin to make the small dough flat one by one.
One by one, okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna roll that out. That is our next step.
Okay.
Did you ever expect to be a missionary?
No, gosh, no. I didn't plan on doing anything related to full-time ministry at all.
Okay, so what were you doing before that?
I had a construction company, and I was perfectly content doing that. I assumed that that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life, and I was okay with that.
You're doing a really good job, by the way.
Thanks. I don't know how thin I'm supposed to make it.
I feel like it needs to be a little thinner than that.
Okay.
I'm just going by memory here.
Okay.
But you know, for those of you who have never made kosher before, we've got a little bit of a advantage because we've had kosher
Yeah, we at least
before.
know what it's supposed to look like.
And it's like, it is delicious.
It is good stuff.
I hope ours is as good.
It's if you're into diet food, this isn't it. This is more like fair food.
Yeah, this is fried stuff.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I was, active in the church and the community, and I love to do whatever, I read in the Bible. If Jesus said it, I tried to do it. I still, even though I would have been considered probably by most pastors to be a good person to have as a member of the church, I just felt like something was missing. And so I was trying to really find out, okay, what's God's will for my life? So it wasn't so much that I didn't know kind of like the rules of Christianity, but I felt like something was missing, and so I thought maybe there was something specific that I was supposed to be doing. And so I was really trying to determine what that was, and I just could not figure out what it was because I couldn't find my name in the Bible. Troy, it's not in the Bible. And so there was no specific instructions for me that I could see. And so I kind of gave up my quest and thought, well, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing until he says otherwise, but I'm willing to do whatever he asks. Well, I don't know, it was maybe 3 or 4 months after I had made that determination that I was in my garage going over some of my paperwork for the day, and God spoke very clearly to me and said to sell my house and get ready to move to Mongolia. So that was a shock, I guess. But at the same time, because he had already kind of set me up with this very strong desire to know what he wanted me to do, I was instantly willing to do what he had asked me to do, because I really had so strongly desired to be in his will. And so to have a clear message like that, as strange as it was and as out of the blue as it was, it really made me want to do that. And of course, you know that my biggest difficulty was going to be telling you.
Yeah, because I was, I still am, but I was even more so kind of spoiled American lady who had a pretty nice life. And, but back then I was also very worried and fearful. I was scared all the time. And the idea of moving our 4 kids to Mongolia was kind of scary.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And when you did tell me, God had already prepared me for that. And we will tell that part of the story in our next step, because, honey, look, you did a really good job. I feel like our Mongolian friends would be super proud of you right now.
If I'm doing it right.
I think,
if this is what they're supposed to look like, they'll be proud of me.
They're
But
round.
if this isn't it, then yeah, who knows?
But they're round. I'm pretty proud of us. And then we also need to mix ground beef and the onion and some minced garlic as well as salt. So for me, I was away at a conference for youth because we were volunteer youth leaders in our church. And at that conference, as I was praying and just remembering as a child, I had a call on my life for missions. So I was telling the Lord, hey, don't forget me. I know I kind of messed up. I didn't do the missions thing. Instead, I married Troy, which was a good thing.
I hope so.
And we had 4 children, but I was like, hey, God, when I'm old and gray, and an empty nester, which we are now. Yeah. And I'm not old and gray, but I am an empty nester. But anyway, I was like, when when all that's over with, all the parenting is over with, I still want to go. I want to go into missions, and don't forget me. And I felt that, like you felt the Lord say, sell your house and move to Mongolia. What he said to me was, trust Troy.
Yeah. And I obeyed. I don't know when you're gonna.
That was the harder one for me, right? And so I'm like, trust Troy. That seems like a really weird thing to say. You want to add your onions in there?
I do.
And so I just was like, okay, I don't really know what that means, but I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna trust Troy. And so we didn't have a chance to talk until we came back. Let's put this up on our faces. And when we got back together a few days later, you and I were sitting outside on our patio, and you're like, hey, is God talking to you? Has God said anything to you? And I was like, yeah, actually, he's been telling me to trust you. So I don't know what you have to say to me, but whatever you need to say, I trust you. And then if Troy is not our most animated person in the family, but he was that night. His eyes got really big, his mouth kind of dropped open, and he's like, I have something to tell you, and it is going to rock your world. Mm-hmm. And don't panic. Just pray. I'm not going to make you do anything. And that is really scary.
Yeah, I don't think there was any other way to present it, but
yeah.
I had to say something.
Yeah.
So I can imagine what you were thinking when I'm saying that. I'm sure, knowing your imagination, you had come up with things already.
Because remember, but I was a stay-at-home mom, and had a great little house and a great little life, and I wasn't a world traveler. I wasn't an adventurous person. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, I asked him, what does God have to tell you? And you were so afraid to tell me.
I knew it wasn't going to go well, or I assumed, I guess, that it wasn't going to go well just based on your personality. And so, no, I didn't give it all at once, but I did say that God spoke to me that we were supposed to sell our house and get ready to go.
And I'm like, go where?
Right, of course.
Go where? Like Wisconsin?
Yeah.
Where? And then,
Maui.
and then he said Mongolia. And I thought that was in Africa. That's kind of embarrassing.
Well, there's a lot of
I was confusing it
countries.
with
Morocco,
Madagascar.
Madagascar.
Yes.
Yeah.
But when you said it, I also knew it was so right. Like I was scared to death, but I also was like, okay, this is God. He is going to do something with us. Like with me, like the scared person, the person that doesn't do anything really. He's going to actually use us. And at that time, we thought it was like years away. Like,
Right.
okay, we'll sell our house. We'll have to go to Bible college. We'll have to figure it all out. And, you know, like eventually we'll go.
We really didn't know anything about missions except that when missionaries came to the church, you gave them money so that you didn't have to go.
Yeah.
That's really about all I knew about missions.
Yeah. What we did not know was that God had some really big plans for us, and that it wasn't going to be years away. It was actually going to be a year and a half, and we would be landing in Mongolia.
Yeah.
And Cup of Cold Water Ministries really helped us to get there.
Yes.
They got behind us, and they sent us. And there's more to the story, but we're going to go to the next step.
Well, yeah, how can you tell that long of a story?
So quickly while you're making kosher. So we've got this, and we've got the dough, and we will go to step 3 next. After God had called us to the mission field, we really didn't know what was next.
No.
But we remembered that my mom had gotten some information from Cup of Cold Water Ministries. We didn't know where they were located or anything like that.
Right.
But you sent a letter off to Dan Hunenfant, who is
I
the
did.
executive director.
He still laughs about that letter.
He has that letter.
I know.
And he reads it to me on the anniversary of our sending of the letter every year, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And basically just saying, like, we don't know what to do. Like, God has just called us to the mission field, and we pretty much think we might be crazy. We don't know.
Yeah, we need someone to tell us we're crazy so we don't have to go.
And so, can we meet with you? And he called us right away, and then came to our house, because it turns out that he was like about Cup of Cold Water Ministry headquarters was like 15 miles from our house.
Right.
And we didn't know that, which is pretty cool. And he came over to our house. He sat and had dinner with us and listened to our whole story. I remember him praying over us in the kitchen. It was just so refreshing, because up until then, the people we had told were kind of like, are you sure?
Right.
Like, you guys, you got a nice life going on here.
Right.
Why would you go to Mongolia?
Right.
Do you know, having Dan there that day, it was like he was the first person, outside of our own family to say, like, I hear you, and this is what CCWM does. We do missions and we send people, and there's a process, but I don't think you're crazy. Right. So I remember he prayed over us, and we just began from that moment learning about the process of applying with Cup of Cold Water Ministries, and I can remember, like, the whole long process of application and everything, and then knowing that they were actually going to vote on us if we could be missionaries or not. And I remember just sitting together in the living room wondering, are they going to say yes? Are they going to say no?
Right.
So do you remember that moment when they called us?
I do. I remember that moment. We had, I think that we were expecting to call a little bit earlier. And so it was pretty late at night. I don't remember what time, but we had waited up for quite a while.
Yeah.
And
it was almost midnight.
Yeah, and I think you answered. And you hung up the phone and said that they said yes, and we just started praising God, because we knew who we were. And so it was kind of that feeling of knowing that God believed in us, and he believed in himself to be able to use people like us.
Yeah.
And the feeling of that was overwhelming, to where we just started praising God. And then, we were on our knees praising God, and then pretty soon we were on our faces just in silence before God, knowing that he was up to something amazing, and he was going to let us be a part of it.
Yeah, and that he was going to use us.
Yeah.
And then, fast forward in time, we spent 8 years on the mission field,
Yes,
and we got to see, which is crazy. we were able to plant a church in a group, an unreached area of Mongolia.
And that church grew to 2.
And we got to see God work with the street children. We got to see God work with the suffering poor. And, you know, to the point where when it was time to leave, when God called us out of Mongolia, we didn't want to go. We were like, what?
No, I was shocked when he called us out. I was as shocked when he told us to leave as I was when he told us to go.
Yeah. And the whole time we were there, Cup of Cold Water Ministries stayed behind us and stood behind us and supported us. And hey, these look really good.
Yeah,
I want to show everybody.
Yeah.
This is more like what it's supposed to look like, guys.
Right, and so instead of cutting the flour into thirds, cut it to where you're making just a little bit bigger than a golf ball size, and roll that out flat. That's more like what I remember.
Yeah, that is perfect. That looks really good. You're a good cook. You know, you should cook more often.
No.
Yeah, I think so.
That's why God made KFC.
Anyway, Cup of Cold Water stood behind us. They stayed with us, and they supported us all the way. And you know, that's kind of what Globe40 is all about, is for you to have a chance to meet all the ministry workers. We have 37 ministry workers in 10 nations.
But I will say that as you probably meet the different workers that are on the field, if you were to ask them, they would really sing the praises of Cup of Cold Water because of just the way that they're so willing to let God tell the missionary what God wants them to do, rather than some mission organizations, which are the boards that are back, you know, in the States, are telling the people on the field what they should be doing. And I think that they get it right sometimes, but God always gets it right, and it's better for the missionary to be listening to God and just be supported back home by the mission organization. And that's more how CUP is set up. And I think that's what you would hear from most of the workers that they really appreciate about CUP.
And maybe everybody doesn't know, but you know, now that we're back in the United States, I work for Cup of Cold Water Ministry as Director of Communications, and it is my joy to be a part of sending people. So it was awesome to be a goer, and I hope we get to be goers again someday.
Yeah.
Please, Lord, that would be awesome. But you know, for now, we get to be part of being senders by supporting missionaries and by working for Cup of Cold Water Ministries and being a part of that bigger team. So
Absolutely.
It's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, let's see if we did it right.
See if it brings back any
Whoops.
good memories.
Oh yeah, it's nice and drippy.
Yeah.
Grease dripping, that's a good sign.
Yes, not a health food. Oh yeah.
This is it.
Yeah, and with the cold weather outside, I definitely feel like I'm back in Mongolia.
Yeah, now we just need some salty milk tea.
That and the smell of burning coal.
Hey, this is awesome.
It is very, very
You're a good cook, babe.
Hey, thank you.